Hello again, fellow audiophiles. I am Wave Theory, and I am back today with what is essentially part 2 of my review of the Singxer SA-1 $599 Class A headphone amplifier. And hey, no lid. Okay, and the reason for that is because this is where I review what is known as the DC Offset Jumper mod, which is a mod that has become apparently so popular within the circles that use this amp that my first review, where I did not talk about it, was interpreted as being incomplete. So, with Apos's permission, since Apos loaned me this and they have made no attempt to influence my opinion one way or the other, and also the link that I will post in the description for this product will be an affiliate link through Apos Audio. Anyway, with their permission, I ordered some shunt jumpers, did the mod, and gave it a listen, and I am here to report on the results in this video. So let's do shameless self-promotion, and then we'll come back on the other side and talk about the SA-1 DC Offset mod. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Please remember to hit that like button, and if you haven't, please subscribe. Also, I have a Patreon set up so that you can help support me on a monthly basis, and I've set up a PayPal donation so that you can help me out in that way too if a monthly subscription does not make sense for you. Links for all of that, including the benefits, in the description below. Please check those out. All right, on with the show. All right, so let's get into this, and there's some ground to cover before we get into the meat of it here, because I think we need to frame this offset mod, talk about what it is and like the risks involved, and then I also need to inform you about some important things about it. Namely, doing this mod voids the factory warranty. Right, so that is a big one right there, that if you choose to do this and take this top panel off, you void the warranty. And that's why I wanted to be sure to get Apos's permission to do this before I actually did it and did any testing. Which, by the way, Apos, thanks for allowing me the freedom to do this. That was really cool. All right, the other thing about that is you do increase system risk by doing this mod. It is a minimal increase. It's very small. It's very unlikely to ever be a problem, but it is a non-zero risk of increase. A non-zero increase of risk. There we go. All right, why? Why is that the case? Well, what you're doing here is we are removing a DC protective circuit from the circuit path in the amplifier. It is called the DC Offset Jumper mod because you're going to install 4 shunt jumpers that create a parallel circuit, if you will, with a protective circuit in here. And just cut that protective circuit out. Now, this particular circuit is there, as I understand it, it's in some sense like almost a surge protection circuit, where if you had a signal come in, like a cascading overload come in from the DAC or wherever, this protective circuit would first protect this amp and also protect your headphones from becoming suddenly overloaded and popping as a result. So, by removing that protective circuit, you are inherently, by shorting it out and just cutting it out completely, which is what this mod is going to do, you are going to increase the risk to your headphones, to your amplifier, to your system at large. Now, it is a small risk, as those kinds of catastrophic conditions are extremely rare, but they do happen. And so then there's the double whammy here if you choose to do this mod, where not only are you removing the factory warranty, you are increasing the risk. And so because the risk is increased, and then if something were to happen, you don't have the factory warranty to fall back on and get your stuff fixed, replaced, whatever the case may be. So it is a do and use at your own risk kind of mod. And so this video should not be interpreted in any way as me recommending you do this mod. I will do this review because clearly the community wanted it done, and they wanted a report, and they wanted my thoughts on what it does for the sound of this amp, because there seems to be a school of thought out there that it makes a very audible enhancement to the sound and to the performance of this amplifier. So I am testing it on that, or I am going to try to answer that question. I'm going to review that sound performance change, but I am not recommending that you do this, warranty voiding and system risk increasing modification. All right, so with that out of the way, I've got a couple of video clips coming up here that I hadn't initially planned to do. The first one is going to be me just showing you where and how you know you're going to be voiding the warranty, because you actually have to break a sticker seal to get to one of the screws to take the lid off. So I'll show you that. The next thing that I will show is, like, there's just something about the circuit design here and the ease with which you can bypass that DC protective circuit here that seems very unique to this product. Like, I just am not aware of any other amplifier, preamplifier, DAC, or something like this where you can open the casing, install 4 little jumper switches or any number of little jumper shunts. They're not switches, little jumper shunt things, and it will just go. It will just work. It's almost like it has been designed for this mod to be used and to work. Yet they do that. Yet that is happening in the face of it voiding the warranty. Something about that is odd. And I'm going to show you how easy it is and why that doesn't stick, why that just doesn't feel right to me in another video clip, which will come up right after the first one I just talked about. So then when we come back from that, I will dive into the sound. And to set up why you might want to make this mod, like, just as a binary, does it make an audible change or does it not? The answer is yes, it does. There is an audible change to it, so I understand why some people might be attracted to the idea. So I will leave that there, show you those 2 video clips, and then I'll come back and address one further point in there, and then we will dive into the sound. All right, let's do it. Okay, working on the mod, and just want to point out right there that there is a sticker underneath one of the screws on the side here. That when you break that sticker, you can see what it says right on there: warranty void if that is damaged. Which seems like it should be a little bit more robust than just a sticker on the surface of a thing somewhere, but like, they can tell that you pulled that screw out. So anyway, that's part of the risky part of doing this mod, is voiding that warranty. Alright, just FYI. Alright, I didn't initially plan to open up the top of this thing and show you all of what's going on inside here of the SA-1, or make this a tutorial on how to do the jumper mod, but as I was poking around in here, and I bumped my lamp, as I was poking around in here, there were just a couple of things that I observed that I'm having trouble reconciling them, honestly. Just a couple of design choices that I am just going, why? Now, I am a physicist by trade, okay? Again, physics professor. I'm not an electrical engineer, so designing this, doing complex electrical circuits like this, complex, okay, is not my forte. I understand the theory behind most of it, but I don't quite grasp, like, just doing the design is not my expertise. But I have, like, why? So remember, this is called the DC offset jumper mod, and this is just a pair of bathroom tweezers here to help out, because a couple of these jumpers are hard to get to. Orienting ourselves, back panel here, right, which means front panel cleverly placed at the front. The area of interest is right behind the volume knob, so the potentiometer is in here. And then you see these green capacitors right here behind the potentiometer. So this section of the PCB of the circuit here in here is the DC protective circuit. And what the jumpers do is they short out that protective circuit. In other words, you just bypass it, okay, with these jumpers. And so you reach down in, so there's one down in there that is hard to get to by hand, so that's why having tweezers or needle nose pliers or something of that nature is handy in getting those in and out of there. But the rest of them are fairly accessible, and you can either use a tool, or if you can get your fingers in there, you can just use your fingers to pull those out. Okay, and pop them back in. So the jumpers were in stock config. The jumpers are not in. So this is like the stock configuration, and that's still a little darker than I'd like it to be. I have a flashlight here because I thought it might be. Okay, my flashlight is pretty dim, and I just put batteries in it. Wake up. Here we go. Always helpful to hit electronic things. Not really, don't do that. Okay. Anyway, so what we see, and I will try to hold this up in such a way you can see it, is that you see those blue boxes that honestly I'm not quite sure what they do, but they are next, I mean, they're down in there. I'm talking about these things right here. There's 4 of them, okay? And then they are near these green capacitors. And then you look right next to those, okay, you see this part right here labeled, oh, this flashlight is not consistently bright. You see this part labeled DC? There are 4 of those, okay, in here. And that is just a 2-pin connector deal, like jumper. If you've ever assembled a PC on your own, bought all the parts, you know, the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM, the graphics card, all of that separately, and assembled it, you've seen stuff like this on the motherboard. Okay, these 2-pin like things that accompany a jumper. Now, this is the stock config where they're just in there. Why? Why? This is the only amp that I can name off the top of my head that I know anything about, and I've been, you know, following this audio stuff for a few years now, where you can just open the lid and, you know, using cheap, easy to find parts like these jumpers, these shunt jumpers here, and then you can just stick them in there and bypass a protective circuit or any part of the circuit like that. Why? I honestly am a bit at a loss as to why that is even an option on this. Like, it's so easy to do. Like I just said, if you know how to use a screwdriver, and if you've ever assembled a computer, I won't even make that comment there. If you know how to use a screwdriver, and you have enough motor skills to stick this across 2 pins, okay, across 2 pins, well, I don't have the fine motor skills, okay? I broke a couple of these a little bit doing that, okay? But look, there I got it. You've got the motor skills to do that. You're good. That's it. You're good. Okay? If you don't like the result, pop them out. It's that simple. Why? The existence of this just doesn't pass the smell test for me. Just something seems very odd about that. It's almost like they're baiting you into it. I know that there are amplifiers and DACs and whatever where you can roll op amps, but those, like, I think you can do that on Bursons and on some Anis, and I think even Lake People, some of the Lake People amps and all that. Like, you can do that, but it's easy to do, and as far as I know, doesn't void the warranty on all of them. It might on some, but not on all of them. And they make them easy to get to, and it's like built in part of the thing that you're going to do that. This, boy, I don't know why. Someone in the comments, if you're an engineer, an electrical engineer, and you know why they might just do that, but then make you do it at the expense of the warranty, let me know. I'm just very curious about that. And it feels very odd to me that this one's like this. Again, this amp seems unique in that ability, and for it to be this easy to undo a protective thing, it just feels fishy to me. It just really does. Okay. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out and make that comment. Someone enlighten us, please. All right. That's enough of this view. On with the rest of the review. Okay. So in that clip, and I mentioned it in a little bit in my intro, like, I'm not trying to dump on Singxer here. I'm not trying to say that they have done a poor job of engineering this product or that sort of thing. Like I'm not meaning that it seems fishy and it doesn't pass the smell test kinds of comments to be interpreted as me attacking their work. I do think it is fair to say that that being able to do a mod like this on a product like this is exceedingly rare and very puzzling. And that's all I'm really trying to say there. And why. Like, I'm just truly baffled. So someone, if you know why that might be, maybe it is very common for there to be jumpers on PCB boards, that sort of thing. But I don't feel like it is. And the reason that I don't think that it is because, again, this is the only amp that I know of where you can do anything like this. If we could do this on a monolith liquid platinum, we'd know about it. Now, you can do mods to the monolith liquid platinum, but you've got to remove some capacitors and do some soldering. It's not just simply pop in and out shunt jumpers like it is on this one. You know, if you can, this is as easy to do as rolling tubes, honestly. Once you get this lid off, it is as easy to do, even easier than rolling tubes on like the shit Lyre 3, or not Lyre 3, the Lyre Plus that I just reviewed, or any other tube amp. It's just that, it's that easy. And that just seems really unique on a fully solid state device to do that. And just something, I'm beating a dead horse here, so apologies for that, but just somebody explain that to me, please. Honestly, someone explain that to me and why I should not worry about that. Okay. Moving on then. Let's get to the sound. So I answered in the intro, does this make a difference to the sound? Test gear real quick. I used the same DACs that I used for the full review. I even broke out my Cord Hugo 2 to try this with a little bit from the single-ended connection, just because I had this on a secondary setup for a little while too. And then most of the critical listening I did with headphones, the Beyerdynamic DT880, Hi-Fi-Man HE6SEV2, Hi-Fi-Man HE1000 SE, and I didn't bring it out here, but I did do a quick check on the JM Audio OCD Extreme Edition mod to the Hi-Fi-Man HE-R10D, which I just recently got back, and there will be a review of that coming out in the near future as well. Okay. So, is there an audible difference? Again, yes. What is that audible difference? For the most part, there are subtle increases in overall detail retrieval. There's a little bit more holographic spatial presentation, and there is more natural treble presentation and timbre with the mod done. So with the jumpers in place, those things are true. I think there also might just be a little bit more cleanliness and clarity when the jumpers are in place. So meaning when the mod is done. Okay, and those are all statements made in comparison to the stock unmodded configuration. So slight increase in detail retrieval or resolution, a bit more holographic spatial presentation, a little bit more accurate imaging, separation, that kind of thing. Not really big differences in sound staging, okay, but the imaging and separation tighten up a little bit. I think that in large part it overlaps with the small increase in detail retrieval. Those two things are often correlated, I think, okay. And then a little bit more natural treble timbre. Cymbals just sound a little bit more convincing and like real cymbals, for example, on that. So cleaner in the treble. A little bit more clarity, like there's a little bit better instrument and vocal separation, so individual sounds stand out just a little bit more. And then it just also just generally sounds cleaner and clearer with the mods in place. Now, that may sound like an absolute blowout. Why would you not do this? It's got to be worth the risk, right? If I just described all of those enhancements. Slow down just a minute. These results are actually never huge, and the magnitude to which I noticed these results changed a lot based on which headphone I was using. And curiously, it really was not directly tied to the price or overall quality of the headphone. Like this, with the HE1000 SE here, is the most resolving headphone that I tried this mod with. Okay, the gap between the stock config and the mod, okay, was pretty small on this headphone. Quite small, actually. Just barely detectable, honestly. As was the case with the JM R10D mod that I just mentioned there. The gap was much more noticeable on the $200 Bayer DT880. This is the 600 ohm version, which I have balanced modded to accept dual cable entry, so I can plug it into the balanced headphone outputs of amps like this one. And it was also quite detectable on the HE6 SEV2. What's going on there? These two present pretty challenging loads to any amplifier. 600 ohms needs lots of voltage and lots of big swings in voltage to sound its best. This is just a notoriously hard to drive headphone. It is a planar, so its impedance is relatively consistent across the entire frequency spectrum, but its efficiency is very low. So it is a very difficult and demanding load on an amplifier. The Hexi, along with that JM R10D mod that I just mentioned, are pretty easy to drive, actually. This one is fairly high in sensitivity, fairly in like 32, 35 ohms impedance, something like that, which is not crazy. The JM mods, I think, are still also around 30 to 35 ohms and have a fairly high sensitivity on them as well. So really what it comes down to is it's not just the headphone or the quality of the headphone that determines how big of an improvement the mod on the SA-1 is. What it is headphone type, and specifically how easy or hard is the headphone to drive. Because to my ear and with the headphones that I have available, I was pretty consistently noticing a larger audible difference with the hard to drive loads than I was with the easy to drive loads. And if we think about that for half a second, it actually makes perfect sense. Because the DC protective circuit here is on like the power supply line, right? It's regulating the amount of DC power that can be applied to the rest of the amp circuitry. So without the mod, so with the jumpers not in, that DC protective circuit is in the bigger amp circuit, and it's messing with things, right? It is apparently changing the way in which the power supply can deliver power to the amplifier circuit, and specifically is doing not great things, right? It is limiting to some extent the amount of power that can go to the rest of the amplifier circuit. So that is why on headphones that are easy to drive, you get a very, very small difference. When the amplifier is just loafing, okay, as it pretty much does with, you know, a headphone like this, or those JM mods, or a Focal Radiance, or, you know, most of Focal's line, anything that's not Utopia. Okay, if the amplifier in this, which has a fair amount of power, is just loafing, you're not going to notice a whole lot because it doesn't need the extra juice. Specifically, it doesn't need to pull as many small changes that happen very rapidly from the power supply as it is with these. Okay, these, you know, to get any kind of reasonable volume out of these, you see it, I still have it set here because I used the HE6 SEV2 last. Is like the potentiometer, the volume knob is almost maxed out. It's like way up here. So those things are already drawing a lot of power from the power supply to put into the amplifier circuit. And since you have a limiter on there and you're already reaching the max, the ability to address and change those small amounts of power fluctuations, that are needed to help with things like spatial presentation, like micro detail retrieval, like timbre, okay, those kinds of things is impeded, okay, it is harmed more on the more demanding loads than it is on the easier load. All right, so there's that. So should you do this mod? I'm going to go with no. Even on the DT80, even on the HE6 SEV2, yes, it was an audible improvement that could be heard fairly easily. And again, I can't do fast AB here because I have to literally unplug and plug in 4 shunt jumpers every time I wanted to switch. Okay, but it could still pretty regularly and easily detect an audible difference, but it still wasn't huge. And in my opinion, in the current market context where you can get a Lake People G111 or you can get a shit Lyre 3, I keep saying Lyre 3, Lyre Plus, okay? Or you go up just a little bit in cost. You've got like the Canon IHA6 sitting right in there. You've got a couple of those Flux Lab amps, which I hope Flux Labs survives the whole Russia-Ukraine mess, okay, and is able to keep delivering products. And like, but you know, you step up just a little bit of money and you've got amps like that sitting right there, or you've got like the Jotunheim 2 hot on the heels of this thing, like just a little bit lower in price. There are so many other options out there that sound very good that you do not have to void a warranty or increase your system risk, okay, to enjoy better sound. There it is. Okay, to me, it's that simple. If you already own an SA-1 and you're like, well, I really like that HE6 SEV2 deal that Adorama has, and I mean, why wouldn't you? Okay, can the SA-1 handle it? Okay, then maybe you might want to think about picking up a pack of those jumpers, and I got like 50 of them for $6.50 or something like that. So I got a ton of them lying around now. Okay, then you might want to think about it, but I don't know that it's worth it. I don't. Okay, so yes, there is a difference. It's not huge. It does not completely change this amp from just being kind of meh. It's just a little bit less meh, but still kind of in the category of meh to my ear. So I will leave that there on the sound description. As far as comparison with other amps go, don't forget that I have the Topping A90D, the Lake People G111 Mark II, the Shit Lyre Plus, all of which have their own reviews up now. And my next video about $600 amplifiers will be the shootout video, which includes both the modded and unmodded iterations of the SA-1. So look for that very soon. So I'll go ahead and leave it there. I am Wave Theory. Please remember to check out my PayPal, my Patreon. Remember to like, subscribe, do all of those things you do to support YouTube channels. Thank you for watching, and as always, enjoy the music.